Hey guys, Thomas the Genie here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Birds of Prey, or I guess in some scenarios, Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, question mark. Um, and if you end up enjoying this review, then consider joining my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed. Alrighty then, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about Birds of Prey, and just for simplicity's sake, I'll just call it that. So, technically speaking, before we can delve in, this is technically a sequel to Suicide Squad, which I did review, and I didn't go back to that review to see what I had scored it, so it'll be interesting to go back and compare these two directly. With that being said, I know I didn't enjoy Suicide Squad particularly. There was a lot of bad. That movie was very messy, and this movie was a sequel to that, proper like. This movie, unfortunate to its nature of the world of Twitter, because I see a lot of things on the Twitter. Uh, I saw all the sexist stuff. Because it's an all women cast. And remember all the other movies that had to go through this nonsense of like, oh, Ghostbusters, all female cast, blah blah blah, you're a sexist if you don't watch it. I had seen some of that stuff for this movie as well. I feel like, oh, if you don't watch it, you're sexist, blah blah blah. So I'm here to just review the movie as it is. Is there characters that represent sexism? Question mark. I guess technically the main guy, bad guy, does. Technically speaking, he does treat women poorly, very very poorly at one point in the movie. And he's very much about his money, and we'll get a little bit more into that. But anyway, so this movie, proper start of the review, begins with some narration from Harley Quinn, and it's as if she is telling a story to someone. Now, based off of the end of the movie and some key points in the movie, very briefly, it seems like she is able to break the fourth wall a bit. And I actually don't mind that too much, considering she's crazy. So I think that does work. I don't think they overuse, well, the narration. She kind of narrates throughout the entire movie, but, her breaking the fourth wall, there is really one moment that I saw that felt very breaking the fourth wall, but we'll get to that in a bit. So her narration talks about how she was raised, about how her dad was drunk, and how she was left to some church women. I forget what they're called. Nuns. Oh, there we go. Bit. Sorry, I had a bit of a brain fart there. Anyways, and she talks about her heartbreak of dealing with Joker, from the Suicide Squad Joker, that Joker. And after that, she studied it a lot through psychology and all of that stuff. So, as far as I can recall, this is pretty accurate to her character. Her backstory, at least the one that I'm aware of. There, like some other comic book characters, I'm pretty sure there are other interpretations. But as for what I know of Harley Quinn, this is pretty close. So she cuts her hair a bit, and she's like freaking out over about it. And she, after the fact, goes to get a hyena, which is something we see her Oh, I've personally seen her have in the video games. I don't know. I think I've seen her have those in the show as well. Later on, like the animated series, I should say. Um, so cut to her at this like roller skating rink thing where she's able to like beat people down. She's very aggressive. Um, all the while she's like trying to drown out her sorrows. So she's like dancing and like pole dancing, quote unquote. And this guy's like, "Hey, you want to dance for me?" And then she stomps on his dick. Um, so the owner of this joint, still assumes that she is with the Joker, and she's not really telling many people that that is not the case anymore. So we go through a bizarre-looking dance montage. She makes her way up to this woman. I think this ends up being Canary that she's talking to. So after they like have their little moment, she decides that after seeing these other women mock her about the whole Joker thing, she heads outside and sees this truck and gets this idea. So she throws off this necklace that has a J to, the last remnant, I guess, and she blows up the plant of where the two of them were gooped. They were, in the previous movie, they were gooped together in this factory, and then blah blah blah. So we cut to a cop named I wrote Romaine. I think that's how you pronounce it. Apologies if that's mispronounced, but that's what I heard. So she's on the case about this killer that killed 4 men in this flashback. And she puts together that this was some woman with a crossbow. So we cut that from there, after she heads out, to the explosion from her point of view. So she goes off to check that out. So after she checks that out, we cut to this man, our main bad guy of the movie, who has these 3 hostages, and we learn that this guy is called Black Mask. Now, I have no clue who Black Mask is, because I don't know the comics that well, so I have no clue who the Black Mask is supposed to be. So, it's fine. Anyways, so Harley goes to get a meal to continue to drown out her sorrows, and Romaine tries to stop her because she's a bad guy. So, meanwhile, as she's fleeing from Romaine, this other woman is like trying to stop Harley from running away, so she like drops this, I think it was a TV that she drops, and trips her up. And bumps into this other angry guy that she has to avoid, so she like takes the side path. Nevertheless, she is tackled down and her food is spoiled. And the two, one of the 2 guys, like one of them's like in a truck and the other one's in a car. The truck guy kills the car guy. Convenient. So she's stopped by this crowbar guy, and the crossbow chick comes out of nowhere and kills him. So Harley, now that she's alone again, is separated or stopped by the cops. So we cut back to some time ago, and we meet. And I said this name a bit too early. I didn't mean to. This is where we officially meet the Black Canary. So there's that. So we see her getting into this room and talking to the cop. So she's working undercover. We learned that pretty quickly through her call. So Quinn, or Harley, goes to the police station and uses this custom-made grenade launcher thing that like pelts out this like heavy confetti dust, and works her way inside, blowing them up, also using the grenade launcher as a baseball bat as well. And this name they keep mentioning of this Kane person. Oh, hold on. I lost my place in my notes. Give me a moment. Apologies for this. This happens a lot. Don't worry about it. Alright, almost there. Okay. Now I gotta find where I was. Okay, grenade launcher, yep. Yes, so she's looking for some person named Kane. I think that's her last name, though. But we have another flashback as we cut back to what the Black Canary's deal was. So, turns out that Black Mask is her boss, as she's working undercover to get in with the Black Mask. And we see the Black Mask dealing with one of the 3 people he ends up killing later on, because it's a flashback. Excuse me. So Harley now talks to the Black Canary, officially. And she was the first person, or at least according to Harley, that she broke up with the Joker. So she watches on as she gets a little bit drunk, and then they head out. She eventually heads outside. This guy's attempting to put her in this van to do things to her later. So Canary's had enough of that. So she takes down the 2 people trying to kidnap Harley, and the Black Mask sees the work she puts in. So she gets promoted to being a personal driver for the Black Mask. She's offered some money, or she offers money to this young girl. I didn't catch her name once in the movie, unfortunately. I ended up calling her Hat. I don't know why. She wears a hat on top of the hat a hood. So I do apologize. I try to remember names to the best of my ability. I did not hear her name in the movie once, so I think I just missed it. So I don't feel like looking it up right now. Anyway, so we'll just call her Hat for the sake of simplicity. So anyways, Romaine talks with Canary over the phone, or actually in person, as Canary recounts that the cops weren't there for when her mom was a police officer and on a heavy case, and then when she needed reinforcements, they were not there. So Black Mask has Canary come on for a new mission, and he brings up the Joker. So Canary is hired to bring in Harley so that Harley can be killed by this Black Mask, who already had this beef with Harley, and now that he her to somehow that she was no longer with the Joker, that he can just deal with her. So we see Hat rob some people. That is her thing. She's really good at stealing stuff. And the cops stop her. So, among the things she steals is a rare diamond. So, as she's being whisked away by the police, we see her eat the diamond. So we cut back to the present at that point in time. And Black Mask is still attempting to kill Harley. So she's locked down on this chair, and he's getting ready to kill her. So she quickly mentions this diamond, and this grabs his interest, and so he like smacks her, and this causes her to have a weird freak out moment where she goes into this different zone where she's like dancing and stuff. It's not part of the movie, but whatever. But it's all in her head. So Black Mask sends out, as soon as Harley is gone, this money bounty on the Hat Girl. So Harley breaks into this computer system. She gets Hat, and the other prisoners get out, and then she has to fight some of them. So Hat escapes on her own, and Harley goes her own way, but they pretty much meet up shortly after that. And she fends off some biker dudes with a bat that she finds in the police in this area. So there are more guys to fight. She takes them down, etc., etc. Romaine gets there, and Harley knocks her out. So she takes Hat, and Hat, while they're in the car, blows up another person. Like, this other person that was chasing Harley specifically. So the two of them go shopping, and they end up just robbing the store anyway. So they go to this place where she knows this person named, or she refers to as Doc. So Harley talks to her about how to impress men and how men like violence. And typically speaking, that's actually accurate, I suppose. So I don't fault that. But I think violence is something that, through sports, I do think, while there are, the majority is men, I do think that obviously some women also enjoy seeing violence, whether that be through, a wrestling sport or, boxing or any of those types of things. So, whatever. So Hat, the girl, doesn't seem to know who Joker is after she sees a poster in Harley's room. So we see the crossbow hunter person arrive at the store, and she starts to talk to the clerk. So we flash back to her story. Her name is Helena, and her family was taken out by this group, and then she was taken in by one of the bodyguards that felt bad, and she was brought in as an assassin, or brought to be taught to be an assassin, I should say. So, for what the movie's worth, there was this one cool guy. They did it. Hooray! So, anyways, she ends up being the Huntress. That's what she refers to herself as. And everyone else keeps, before then, calling her the Crossbow Killer. but she ends up taking the name the Huntress. Anyway, so Black Mask forces, and this is the scene I was referring to, where this woman's like laughing, and Black Mask already is like, already pissed. So he overhears her laughing, this woman named Erica. So, he, stops the entire room, calls her out on her laughter. He just, for whatever reason, thinks that she's laughing at him specifically. So he forces her to dance on the table, rips off her clothes, embarrasses her, etc., etc. So Romaine has this other side cop who sells her out. She was dealing with this other cop earlier in the movie, but I neglected to mention that, so I apologize. Anyways, the cops arrive at this hideout, and or these people arrive at the hideout. I don't think they were cops. When I first saw it, I thought they were cops for a moment, and then they were like, "Oh no!" But then they throw something inside the building where Harley is, and the explosion goes past them, and the hyena, from what I saw, jumps right into the explosion. So I thought the hyena died, but turns out later in the movie, at the end, to be specific, the hyena is just fine. I'm gonna say that now to save you all the time. So, it turns out that the doc, the one I mentioned earlier, had sold her out. So Harley makes a new deal for her protection with Black Mask. And this is where Black Canary is sent to make the deal, and that's when she makes the call to the Romaine character. So, while they're traveling, Canary is with this other guy named Victor. I think his name was Victor. And he sees the phone that Canary had been using. She left it on for, I guess it was charging, but it but it had to have been on because it showed her contact. So Victor now knows that she betrayed Black Mask, or was ready to sell him out, or whatever you want to refer to that as. So Harley looks down at Hat, all the while. Romaine gets there to where Harley is, and they fight again, and Harley knocks her out the window. But quickly after that, Victor comes in and knocks Harley out with this knockout thing. So Canary goes to get Hat, and Victor holds up a gun to Canary and says, "Hey, cut this girl down, get the gem as soon as possible, etc., etc." So the Huntress arrives, and the Huntress is there now. So, with a little bit of distraction, Canary helps out to take Victor down once and for all. And Romaine re-enters the building. She's totally fine. And Hat has the gun that Victor had, and she points the gun at all the females that have entered this scenario. But reinforcements of Black Mask are arriving on the scene, and he brought his entire army. So Harley sees this, and they all see this actually, so she suggests that they all team up, the all-lady team up. So they naturally all agree, gear up, and slide on out. And as they are sliding out into this other room, more masked men are coming out to fight. So Huntress starts trying to guide Hat, and this is where we see our women teaming up together for the best time for their to team up. As soon as they exit, Romaine is shot in the lower chest area, so she's not killed, but just injured. And they, in the process, Hat is captured and taken away. So all of the guys who are outside of the building have guns, but none of the ones that went inside had guns, which is odd, but whatever. So Harley's saying, like, hey, the kid's getting, taken away. So Black Canary, who I didn't mention this, but I'll mention it now. At the very beginning when we see her break a glass with her voice. So, for those of you who don't know who Black Canary is, I do know who she is, vaguely. So she uses her powers of sonic waves to unleash, as all of her women cover their ears, and Harley does so as well, but she's in the front with her rollerblades, so she's propelled forward, but quickly knocked over. So Huntress is able to get out and get on her motorcycle and re-carry her forward. So they get to the car, and the Huntress is no longer able to proceed to follow them. So she gets to the main, Harley gets to the main car and fights her way in, trying to fight her way in to get Hat. But she's unable to get Black Mask, and they end up on this pier. So Black Mask is running down the pier, and Harley comes up from behind, and she starts to speak up about how him and the Joker have no real power, and that she has been the one behind all of the greatest heist, and so on and so forth. But Black Mask has Hat in his grasp, and he's willing to shoot her, and Hat vaguely hints that she stole I think she referred to it as a ring or something, and that makes Harley think back to when they were in the fun house. That's what it was, where they were in, where Hat pocketed a grenade. So if she had mentioned the ring of the grenade, the one you pull out, and pinned out the grenade, and this allows enough distraction off to have Harley basically drop kick, I think it was a drop kick, Black Mask into the water, and he blows up, and that's how Black Mask is taken down. So we cut to the ladies in the store, and excuse me, and Hat goes to use the restroom after other attempts of getting the ring or the diamond out, and Harley goes out to help her. So while Harley and Hat are away, Romaine says that they did a pretty good job of cleaning up, and she's obviously talking with Black Canary and the Huntress. So we learn that Harley steals, I think it was Black Canary's car, and they go off. She goes off with Hat. So Romaine stayed fired as far as what the visuals were showing and what the narration was saying. And as Romaine was suggesting, her, Black Canary, and the Huntress make, well, the birds of prey. Title job. So the three of them do that. Harley goes off with, again, Hat and the hyena Bruce, and they drive off. And that was Birds of Prey. So, I thought this movie was alright. Yep. I thought it was fine. There are a few conveniences along the way. of like, oh, and some cliches, and Harley even remarks on the cliches of like, oh, that cop that gets fired, and how that fired cop always in the movies does the best work when they are fired. That literally happens in this movie. So, yep. The action was solid. I think they could have spent more time on the other characters. Just like stretch it out a little bit. I felt for them like Huntress has her like flashback about like how her family was taken out. I think that could have been like stretched a little bit more. Things like of that nature. I think the back and forth was a little bit hard to follow, but like Harley's there to narrate like when things are being flashbacked, which actually kind of helps a little bit, but still, it's a little bit back and forth in terms of that. But I think it does work out. So each of their connections to Black Mask, I think it does work. I think it's solid enough, I should say. Black Mask already apparently wanted to kill Harley. I actually don't recall why. Something about, I don't know. I actually don't remember, honestly. If I'm being brutally honest, I don't remember why Black Mask was after Harley, but there was a reason mentioned. And of course, Black Canary was undercover. She was going after, like, she mentions how this family was associated with Black Mask in some way. So they all have a connection to Black Mask as this antagonist. And now I don't know the comics. I mentioned that at the beginning of this. So I don't know if it follows this type of story where, Harley Quinn, this villainess, is the one that kind of essentially helps make the Birds of Prey. I don't know if that's the scenario, but that is what this movie is presenting, essentially. And of course, Harley Quinn continues to go off with Hat and her hyena Bruce to do their own stuff. Because she's still, at the end of the day, she's still a villain. And I'm sure if they were to continue a Harley Quinn story, they would probably hook her up with, what's her name? Poison Ivy. I think in the animated series, there's the heavy they're a couple at some point in the animated version. So it'd be interesting to see, if they did some sort of follow-up, at least with Harley. I think that would be the natural direction to take her character, just because this movie, for more than I'm aware of, so yeah, having her continue that journey, I think her next relationship would make sense. But then again, I think that would probably have to require bringing Batman back into the mix, because you have to kind of start swerving it back. I mean, this is technically connected with the DCEU, unlike the Joker movie was. The Joker movie called Joker. As far as I know, as far as right now is concerned, it's not related to the DCEU. But this movie is, and if they were to continue through the DCEU version of this and continue to work with this actress for Harley Quinn, again, I think her next natural progression would be to work with Poison Ivy and then end up in a relationship with her. Again, a few conveniences here and there, but overall, I would say it worked. Alright. I think the best score I could give it is a 6 out of 10. You know, a little leaning bit towards 7. I think they could have bumped up the stories of each of the characters a little bit more. Give it a little bit more time to settle in. Because it does, when the characters' backstories are happening, it seems to, like, kind of rush through that material, and I think that's the material you should really hone in and focus in on. And yeah, I do get why they or why they would want to change the movie to Harley Quinn, with the colon and then Birds of Prey. This movie does primarily follow Harley Quinn, while then it almost seems like the Birds of Prey are secondary characters in the way it's presented. Like, their backstory is a little bit more rushed, as I mentioned. And it kind of goes back to what Harley was doing, and then Harley has the ladies set up the team. So again, a 6 out of 10. I think they could have worked at that a little bit more solidly. The action was already fine, as I mentioned. Making sure the smaller little things, like I wouldn't remove a point for it. Like, the whole Bruce just being alive thing doesn't really hinder the movie in any real way. But the character stuff is where I see there could be a little bit more room for that to grow. So that's where I land. A 6 out of 10. Pretty alright. I think I rated this higher than Suicide Squad, if I'm not mistaken. But again, I haven't looked back at that review, so there you go. That's my review. And if you enjoyed it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are desperately needed. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye!